Welcome to Crantrak Screencast number 8, dated July 9th, 2011. In today's screencast, we will be showing you how to use Crantrak to record irrigation and precipitation events. Before you can create an irrigation or precipitation event, you first need to create a bed group which represents that pump group or listing of beds that precipitation event occurred on. So we're going to go over and click on the Start button next to the bed group information task, and that will bring up a listing of all of our bed groups. If you don't have a bed group created for a specific pump group, you can click the Add button, enter in the description of that pump group. You select that it is an irrigation pump group. The next field below is the equivalent rainfall amount per hour. So you're going to need to know that when you run this pump for an hour, how much rainfall is going to be put onto the ground. And to calculate gallons, we need to know the flow rate. So however many gallons per minute of flow that pump creates. Then you're going to go down and select the beds that are part of that pump group. Click the Save button, and you now have a new bed group that is for Pump A. You can enter in whatever description you wish to enter into that bed group. If at some point you wish to modify that bed group, you can always come back into this task, click the Edit button, select the field that you wish to edit, and hit the Save button. Once you have your pump groups created, you can add an irrigation or rainfall event by clicking on the Start button next to the task called Add Irrigation Rainfall. Always remember, if those tasks don't appear in your task list, you can go up and click the Add button and select those tasks to add them to the task pane. So I click on the Start button, and it will ask me whether this is an irrigation or precipitation rainfall event. We're going to create an irrigation event. I click the Next button, ask me for the date of the irrigation event, the amount of run time, whether this was for drought and or frost protection, and the pump groups that you did this irrigation event for. Note that there's a runtime if different field over here, so if for some reason you did multiple pump groups and for one you ran 2 hours instead of 2.5 hours, you were able to come in and select and enter in a different runtime in that field. I'm going to then click the Finish button. System will tell me that it successfully created that irrigation/rainfall event, and you are done. If at some point you wish to view any of the irrigation or rainfall events or modify or delete them, there's a task called Irrigation/Rainfall Events. You simply start that task. It will show you a listing of all the irrigation and rainfall events that you have created for this Martian year. On the left there is an Edit button allowing you to edit any of the fields of information regarding that rainfall or irrigation event, and there's a Delete button over there on the right allowing you to delete that irrigation or rainfall event. One other task that has to do with irrigation and rainfall is the irrigation/rainfall totals. Starting this task will show you a listing of all of your beds, the rainfall equivalent amount that has been applied to that bed, and the total runtime that has been performed on that bed, and the last date of a rainfall/irrigation event on that bed. You have the ability to click the Filter button up above and filter on whether this was a drought event, and it will say either by default, you can say yes or no to limit that down, whether this was a frost event, yes or no again, and finally a precipitation event. So if you were only interested in seeing irrigation events, you would come down and say no to the precip and click the OK button, and it would only show you irrigation events. At any point, as always, you have the ability to click Print to print this listing, or Export to Excel to export this listing to Excel. One final task that has to do with irrigation and rainfall events, but also has to do with flooding events, is called the Water Usage Totals task. When you enter in information on your pump groups regarding the flow rate or gallons per minute of that pump, and then you create irrigation events that give Crantrak the amount of runtime, Crantrak is able to calculate the total gallons that are used by the running of that irrigation event. If I click on the Start button next to the Water Usage Totals task, the page will change to show me a breakdown of every month of this current year, and I'm working with 2011. It will show me the irrigation totals in gallons, the flooding totals in gallons, and the overall total, adding these two columns together. You're able to click the Print button, as always, and the Export Excel button to export this listing to Excel. In a future podcast, we will be explaining the flooding events, part of the system that will allow you to record that information as well. This ends Crantrak podcast number 8. Thank you for listening.